You know, it's kind of funny because people are voting for tyranny. You know, people are voting for like mass deportations, going door to door, arresting people, going after the media. But we're just getting like Jewish tyranny. We're getting that, but like for Israel. We're like deporting people that criticize Israel, going to war for Israel, deporting people that hate Israel, shutting down Harvard because they hate Israel. And it's like, we just kind of got the wrong flavor. So it's like right idea, just directionally not pointed at the right thing here.
For people like this, it's always like very exciting, very like comic book, Marvel view of the world, that there's always like one big bad guy that explains everything. It's just life is much simpler and easier when there's always like a big baddie that is like controlling all the evils and horrible things in the world. And it means that you can advocate a lot of personal responsibility, or at the very least, the personal responsibility that you advocate for is like fun personal responsibility. You know, like, oh, the Jews are coming after you. We have to like fight against them and a lot of women and repopulate the planet and all this. But it gets you away from any responsibility for lame shit. Like, oh, maybe our consumption is not the best and we contribute to things like pollution, or we need to make better decisions about type of media that we consume, or we need to be more educated voters. Like that stuff is like boring and cringe and gay. But having like Jews controlling everything, and the reason why we have all these societal ills are because of these crazy Jewish people that are, or whoever the is behind the scenes, is like way more exciting and awesome and base to talk about. Our good friends.
Very proud to present Nick Fuentes, fresh off his Candace Owens interview. That was fun.
Oh yeah, I had a lot of fun.
I had to stop listening at about an hour because she was yapping so much.
Yeah, it's really more like an interrogation.
She was coming after, what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know what her problem is. It's another narcissistic black woman, pretty typical.
Come on, Candace, what's going on over there, buddy? So what's going on in the world, man? What's new with you?
I mean, we got the war with Iran, we have the Epstein files.
I've heard from some pretty high up sources that this might be million-dimensional chess. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, Trump has not lost cat turd yet, so I think there still might be a chance.
Yeah.
I think this is an epic crash out. I think it's over. This is Zognal Blumph and the final stand. I'm afraid of what's going to happen next. I think he's going to turn the cannons on us now.
You think Trump's going to go after the alt-right?
I do. I think it's over. I think it's been over.
The entire world is sexually blackmailed by Mossad. Do mainstream people know this?
I think so. The name's Epstein, so it's kind of hard to ignore.
Regular people know about Epstein.
Well, it was absolutely blatant. You know, he goes to jail for sex trafficking, dies mysteriously. The cameras were turned off. Nobody was there. I actually just discovered this last week. Bill Barr was the attorney general when he killed himself. That means he was overseeing the federal prison.
You just figured this out? Yeah?
Epstein was detained in. Did you know that?
Sounds like you should have watched Destiny stream covering all that when he died a long time ago.
Bill Barr's father was the principal of the school that Jeffrey Epstein worked at in the 1970s.
Damn!
Oh my God.
Jeffrey Epstein was hired by Bill Barr's dad at the Dalton School in 1974.
Uh-oh.
And then his son, Bill Barr, oversaw the detention facility that he died at. So it's just beyond parody. And it became a meme. You know, Epstein didn't kill himself. The meme should have been the Jews killed Epstein to keep him shut, you know, because it's like, well, who killed him then? It just doesn't show you get one side or the other. If you get the left, you get George Soros. If you get the right, you get Jeff Epstein in Israel. So
It's nice how that story came full circle, though. It's a generational thing. We were talking about people in the CIA, some of them wanting to push war with China. Why would people want this? Why is it like a thing that anybody would push for?
You have three real countries in the Middle East. You have Turkey, Egypt, and Iran. Everything else is basically a construct. Everything else is fake. Egypt and Turkey have been pro-Israel for 50 and 80 years each.
Is Turkey pro-Israel? All I know is that a lot of bad shit from Turkey goes to Israel. I feel like Turkey is not the biggest fan of Israel. I think Egypt just, I don't know if Egypt's done anything in the Middle East for like 50 years, 40 years. I feel like they just kind of like do their thing. Like they had their little Arab Spring moment. Egypt was just kind of like there. It was like chill. Yeah.
Iran's the only major country that still opposes them in the region. So the Jews want to war with Iran because that's basically the last opponent. China, for obvious reasons.
That sounds kind of badass.
It is.
I got chills when you said they're the last opponent. It made me think I was watching some badass action movie.
So that's why they want to war with Iran. They want to war with China. Elements in the U.S. want that because they're going to be the next great competitor. They're going to be the next great power competitor. But I don't mind them, actually. I think the Chinese are all right.
I'm just thinking, would you need to go to war with somebody if they're going to be a competitor?
No, not necessarily.
Does it necessitate bombing and going to war? I'm just thinking what many great leaders have thought for thousands of years, Ryan.
When are you not thinking like many great leaders?
Indeed. Anyway.
It's a shame that it crackles when you're just doing your most comfortable movements.
Well, I have to break it in here. I don't have time to break it in when I'm not on the show.
Is that regular leather?
This is Indian goat leather for real. You like buying stuff at gas stations?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I just think it's fun. So we're on the road a lot. They always have knives and crazy cool shit you can just flip around and throw. I got in Arizona, an alien Area 51 driver's license, but it was like irregularly long, so it didn't fit in the card slot. So I had to make a special exception and put it where the money goes, in the wallet. So now I just have this extra card in my wallet that's like Area 51 alien. It's like I'm an alien. So the cop pulls me over and I say, here you go, officer. I'm a fucking alien, all right?
I posited that maybe it's a different shape because like it's from outer space. It's like it's not the standard card shape. It's from a different.
Yeah, it's a
Mercurian standard.
They're still with rectangles. They're still fine with rectangles, but it's different specs. Yeah, exactly. So listen, my viewers are not as educated as your viewers, all right? We need to know what else is going on. So the U.S., we want war with Iran because they're the last opponent. That sounds badass. Okay, I'm gonna give the devil his due here. We want war with China because they're a possible competitor.
Well, they just did the Big Beautiful Bill. That just got through Congress. They're cutting the corporate tax rate again, extending the corporate tax cut, and to pay for it, they're cutting Medicaid by $900 billion, which I think is like great politics. Taking away healthcare to pay for corporate tax cuts is a real winner.
That's funny, yeah.
Well, and it's like, this is just so classic. Every year, people vote for fewer immigrants. People vote because we hate seeing like Venezuelans peddling candy bars on the street. And every year we just get tax cuts, get a corporate tax cut, and like $1 trillion defense budget and more wars for Israel. So that's basically what was in the bill.
Those goddamn Venezuelans. Every American cares about the same things that I care about, and when they vote differently, it's because all of them are being oppressed. And trust me, every American actually cares about and hates Israel as much as I do, because I talk about it with all my neo-Nazi friends all day, or my far leftist pro-Pally friends all day.
Oh, and well, here's the best part. They allocated $150 billion for border, for ICE and deportations and for the border. And then the same day that the bill passed, Trump got into a rally and said, we're not going to do mass deportations anymore. So well, what's the money for then? And then they told us a week later, the deportations are now for citizens that criticize Israel. That's the new memo from the DOJ. They're going to revoke citizenship of people that criticize Israel and then deport them to Libya and Africa.
I remember when they were deporting people for being pro-Palestine, people on, was it student visas?
Yep.
So people who were, listen, we don't want Arabs in this country, but they were in this country legally here to study, and they were being deported because they were critical of Israel. And I saw a lot of people on the right sort of cheering that, like they didn't understand why that might be a bad thing. So what, they're going to deport who now?
Citizens. They're revoking the citizenship.
How does that work? What does that mean?
So if you're a naturalized citizen, meaning you attain it after you were born in another country, you come here, get your citizenship. They say the top 5 priorities of the DOJ this year will be revoking naturalized citizenship from anybody that is a threat to Israel or criticizes Israel.
Holy shit.
That's the new move.
Do you think that Rosie O'Donnell's a test run for a straight up citizen? She was born in America.
She was.
And Trump was saying that like it's probably like the test subject. If everybody hates Rosie, so we're going to deport her, and then everybody's going to be like, yeah. And then now you've opened that door to make that possible, and then we're gone.
Did they deport Rosie?
Not yet.
He said we should look into it. He said we're going to look into it very strongly. It's kind of funny because people are voting for tyranny. People are voting for like mass deportations, going door to door, arresting people, going after the media. But we're just getting like Jewish tyranny. We're getting that, but like for Israel. We're like deporting people that criticize Israel, going to war for Israel, deporting people that hate Israel, shutting down Harvard because they hate Israel. And it's like, we just kind of got the wrong flavor. So it's like right idea, just directionally not pointed at the right thing here.
They got to know what they're doing though, because they're attracting all that attention to, this anti-Israel hate. They've got to understand that it's going to come full circle and people are going to be like, wait a minute, maybe not liking Israel is super justified, right? Like that's going to bite them in the butt.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're just going to kill us all.
Okay, interesting.
Peter Thiel has like an enemies list of like 2 million people in Palantir.
Yeah.
And Palantir came in on the heels of Doge. Elon Musk brought Doge in to every department, to the IRS, the Treasury Department, education, the rest of it. And everyone that worked in Doge had also worked for Palantir. And so when Doge left, the Palantir people stayed. And what they're doing now is they're creating a master database that has your education records, health records, tax records, the Treasury Department's records. And they're going to be in one giant searchable database for this administration with a $150 billion budget for ICE that wants to take citizenship from people that criticize Israel. And that's what people voted for when they voted for Trump.
What is Palantir? Can you explain what this is a little bit?
Palantir is a CIA cutout. So in 2001, after 9/11, they created this, it's basically artificial intelligence or an algorithm to interpret these vast amounts of data. The intelligence community takes all this massive amounts of data, emails, phone calls, text messages. Palantir interprets all of it into insights that are usable by law enforcement. And so in 2001, after 9/11, they took what was a CIA program and they just effectively privatized it to bypass the Constitution. Constitution protects people's privacy, but a private company doesn't have to play by the same rules.
So 2001, you're saying that the CIA was spying on people and collecting all this data, and then to get around public oversight, they sort of transferred this into a private company?
Right. So Palantir is a firm that creates usable insights based on vast amounts of data. It's a private entity to circumvent the Constitution. They're founded in 2001. Until 2008, they only worked for the CIA, and the CIA actually provided the startup money through their venture capital arm, In-Q-Tel. So they provided all the money for it, and they created all the products. So Peter Thiel, Alex Karp, Joe Lonsdale, they were at Langley, Virginia, at the CIA headquarters making everything for the CIA as a so-called contractor. And then after that, they branched out into everything. So they identified Capitol rioters on January 6th. They were identifying who wasn't vaccinated in 2021.
What were they doing with people that weren't vaccinated?
Just to identify contact tracing, who had COVID and who was spreading it to everybody using Bluetooth, and then identifying who wasn't vaccinated for the purpose of these vaccine passports. In states like New York or in New York City, they wouldn't let people into restaurants if they didn't have the vaccine. So this was going to be like, they wanted to identify everybody that didn't have the card.
Yeah.
I feel like at some point, there's no way, is this whole thing just going to be like government control and Jew shit? It's got to be boring at some point, no? Okay. I wonder if I'm still burned out from this like 20, but I spent like the first 2 years of my online political career like debating neo-Nazis, and it's just like so boring.
Using Bluetooth, you said?
That's for identifying who has COVID.
Interesting.
Because if you got COVID and you tested positive, they would look at your phone, and your phone has Bluetooth, and they'd see all the other phones that touched it. So you identify everybody that might have COVID. That's the contact tracing. It's basically just like what Ted Kaczynski warned about. This is the classic panopticon surveillance state. And so Palantir was founded by Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel funds all the new right projects. You know, in 2022, he was the single largest individual donor in the cycle. So he put $30 million behind J.D. Vance, Blake Masters.
Why does he look greasy?
Well, he's a gay man. I think that has a lot to do with it. So,
There's a certain amount of grease that comes along with the lifestyle.
Yeah, a lot of lubricant, a lot of lubricating,
Why is
a
it
lot
all
of
over his
friction.
face when he's doing public appearances?
Peter Thiel has funded Sovereign House, Passage Press, Bronze Age Pervert, Claremont Institute, and then, of course, our vice president, J.D. Vance, was his protege for his entire career. So Vance is Peter Thiel's guy on the inside.
Where does Thiel come from? Was he around in 2001?
He was.
And
He
what
came
was
from
he
PayPal.
What was he doing?
So he had just, around that time, created PayPal with Elon Musk.
At that point, when they're doing PayPal, is this something that's linked to intelligence yet, or is he sort of solo?
Most likely, yes, because of the nature of what PayPal is, which is a peer-to-peer payment system. So it's deeply in touch with the financial industry and state regulations. The real connection to intelligence is that he comes from Stanford University. That was his origin story. He founded the Stanford.
I watched you for years. After watching Nick for a year, I can say he's leagues above you. Yeah, I think the last debate I had with Nick was fucking pathetic. And then the second one I had with him over immigration stuff was pathetic. He's good at like ideologue. If you like to listen to people monologue their ideology and just do that all day, I mean, Nick is a good guy to listen to. I'm really bad at that stuff. I just like researching shit and debating people on stuff, and I'm a little bit more discreet versus kind of like narratively driven. But
Review at Stanford University with money from Irving Kristol.
What's that, like the school paper?
Yes.
Who's Irving Kristol?
Irving Kristol's the godfather of neoconservatism. So he invented the neocons. He's a Jew, former communist who became a conservative after the Soviet Union backed Israel's enemies.
Peter Thiel, I almost said Peter Steele. He should change his name. He started the school newspaper with money from the godfather of neoconservatism?
Yes.
Okay, continue.
So he takes money from Irving Kristol to start this paper. And you have to understand that like where all these conservatives come from is they're effectively groomed by the CIA out of college. Every major conservative thinker, influencer, basically from the 1950s on was groomed by what was called the Congress for Cultural Freedom, which is a project of the CIA.
This is the KKK.
No, I know we're talking about serious stuff, so I tried to hold it in. So this was a while ago this happened, but you said the godfather of neoconservatism. And all I could think was like, the godfather, you go, so you're telling me you don't support Israel? That's all I could think of, and my brain just like, shut up, don't say that.
No, please interject with humor. You're saying that every major conservative figure comes from this Congress of what?
why are they so obsessed with Peter Thiel? I mean, that guy legitimately has his hands in a ton of things. But like for people like this, it's always like very exciting, very like comic book, Marvel like view of the world, that there's always like one big bad guy that explains everything. It's just life is much simpler and easier when there's always like a big baddie that is like controlling all the evils and horrible things in the world. And it means that you can advocate a lot of personal responsibility, or at the very least, the personal responsibility that you advocate for is like fun personal responsibility. You know, like, oh, the Jews are coming after you. We have to like fight against them and fuck a lot of women and repopulate the planet and all this. But it gets you away from any responsibility for lame shit like, oh, maybe we, our consumption is not the best and we contribute to things like pollution, or we need to make better decisions about type of media that we consume, or we need to be more educated voters. Like that stuff is like boring and cringe and gay. But having like Jews controlling everything, and the reason why we have all these societal ills are because of these crazy Jewish people that are, or whoever the fuck is behind the scenes, is like way more exciting and awesome and base to talk about.
Congress for Cultural Freedom.
Congress for Cultural Freedom.
So they're all, in a word, they're all being groomed. All of these like conservative intellectuals that are writing these books, people like William F. Buckley, and many of the anti-communists are all being groomed out of college by the CIA to be a conservative counterweight to left-wing communism in America, because the CIA is deeply worried about communism spreading in the United States and elsewhere. So Peter Thiel tracks with this pattern where Irving Kristol's one of them.
So back in the 60s or 70s or whatever, they would have been doing this to combat communism.
Right.
And then at some point something goes wrong?
I wouldn't say it went wrong. It's more like the CIA was always in bed with Israeli intelligence. So under the aegis of fighting communism, what they're really doing is combating anti-Semitism at the exact same time. So these people are being groomed by the CIA, which happens to be an institution that's totally infiltrated by Israel.
When was the CIA infiltrated by Israel?
From the very start, from its very inception. And the reason being is because the CIA was formed out of wartime intelligence during World War II. Obviously, we needed intelligence about the Axis, the Nazis, the Italians. And so when the Allies invaded Italy, what was coming through Italy were a lot of Jewish refugees fleeing the Holocaust, fleeing the persecution by the Germans. And so how did the Allies get intelligence about the Germans? We talked to the Jews that were fleeing Germany. And so our entire intelligence network from Germany, and even from Russia for that matter, from Poland, all these Jews that were fleeing these countries came from Jewish refugees, essentially. So when the CIA was founded, it was basically made up. All the human sources were Jewish refugees leaving Italy and then going to Israel. And then the next big step is that we were, of course, fighting the Soviet Union. When the Cold War starts in the 1950s, we have to know everything about the Soviet Union, but we know nothing because an Iron Curtain has descended. We have no sources that are on the inside. We have no idea what's going on. But there are some people.
Have I looked into Palantir? No, not yet. But the little bit I've heard it seems pretty spooky. Seems not good. Someone in chat just got ass pain because they said that I don't believe that Peter Thiel is influential behind the scenes. I think a lot of these weirdos are influential behind the scenes. So are a lot of the weird crypto bros. I think we're influential behind the scenes as well. But it's not like some grand unifying Jewish conspiracy cabal where they have this extra exceptional power. It's usually like ideological plus capital interests that are kind of like working to try to mold and move shit behind the scenes. Like that's more what's going on. A lot of this stuff is just kind of like out in the open. Like Peter Thiel's like on these boards of like so many different organizations. These guys are all like doing podcasts and shit. Like you don't really need like a super creepy secret, amazing conspiracy theory to explain everything. But nobody wants to do any of the real work to fight back against any of this stuff because the real work is boring and cringe. Boring stuff like fixing crime and education and doing things to improve the lives of the average, like that's boring. Instead, it's like we gotta fight against the crazy neo-fascist or the Mossad, CIA created Jewish intel network. Like, because all of that stuff is not only is it cool because it absolves you of all personal responsibility. Like the flip side of absolving you of all personal responsibilities, there's no prescriptions. There's never anything you can do ever. There's never anything you can do, and all of these people are the same. I think that there's like the only time that Alex Jones like shut up for more than 3 seconds, I think, because I think I asked him, it's like, what are people supposed to do? Fuck, I'm not going to be able to find it.
It's a conspiracy theory, a little
So what do you want people to
line.
do about it?
He's like, you use words like conspiracy theory.
Alex, what do people do about it?
Theory.
What do you want people to do about it?
I want people to be aware of
No,
what's going
not
on.
be aware. What do you want people to do about it? You've made them aware. Now what are they supposed to do?
People.
This is the problem with your
You're not
platform.
letting me talk.
All you're doing. Oh,
You're trying
Yeah,
to.
nothing. This guy's fucking rambling for the rest of it. There's nothing. There's nothing you can do. Just be aware. What? Be aware what? Watch your show and buy your supplements? This is fucking cringe. Like, it's all the same shit. Like,
People leaving the Soviet Union, and it's Jews that are leaving the Soviet Union to go to Israel. So we say, how do we know the secrets about the Soviet Union? Let's interview the Soviet Jews that flee to Israel. In order to get access to those people, we have to make a deal with Israel. And we effectively say, well, we will help your fledgling state if you give us information about the Soviet Union. And so basically a deal was made. This is how they got their nuclear program. This is what was revealed in the JFK files earlier in the year. That James Angleton, who was running the Israel desk in the 50s and 60s and 70s, he, under the table, was providing Israel with nuclear secrets to get access to their Soviet emigres so we could learn more about the
this is something that I just assumed to be true because I've heard it repeated so often. Is this actually true, though? Because I did a little bit of reading, because I wanted to know a little bit more about the origination, I think, of like Pakistan and India's nuclear program. And this is like barely touched on. The little bit that I've seen, it seems like Israel developed their nuclear program way more alongside South Africa. Now, I think they lied to everybody about it because they want the plausible deniability or whatever. But it seems like South Africa was way more instrumental in Israel developing their nuclear program than stealing secrets from the USA. But I don't know how true that is. I'm not 100% sure or not.
Soviet Union.
Now, you said James Angleton.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine if you showed that guy the future? Hey, James, I want to show
Oh,
you
and France as well, because France was France was an actual, were they an overt ally to Israel? They were definitely close to Israel. I don't know how overt they were about it, but like they helped them manufacture kind of the conditions for pushing that Suez crisis a lot further than it probably needed to go. France and Britain were secretly alongside Israel on that. So yeah, I feel like France and then next to South Africa were way more responsible for Israel developing its nuclear program than the United States was. But
So real quick, here's a glimpse into the future. This is what you did? That's really funny. Okay, so CIA formation, they're infiltrated from the very beginning because they wanted access to Russian emigres. The Congress for Confederate?
Cultural Freedom.
Cultural Freedom. Okay, so tell me about this, the CCF, we'll call it, because I forgot what it was.
So the CIA starts to basically support a lot of conservative radio publications, intellectuals, because these guys are all making the case that the Soviet Union is evil.
It sounds like PragerU. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. Yeah, it is PragerU. It's like proto-PragerU. And so basically all of the famous anti-communist conservatives of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, maybe the most prominent being William F. Buckley, they were being funded under the table by the CIA. Their papers, radio, TV, their scholarships, they were all funded through what were called cutouts, NGOs, various projects, one of them being the Congress for Cultural Freedom. And that's because the CIA wanted to create in Europe and in the United States this intellectual case against communism. Then you fast forward to the 80s, and Irving Kristol, the godfather of neoconservatism, he's one of these guys, by the way, who's getting money from the CIA. He starts up a group with a number of other Jews, and they start seeding money for student newspapers at all the top schools.
Damn.
Stanford, Dartmouth, UChicago. And some of the most famous conservatives today got that money, and that is how they got their start. They started these student newspapers. They start writing for them, and then they climb up the ladder doing commentary, doing broadcasting, and now these are like the biggest hosts at Fox News. Like one of the ones, for example, was Dinesh D'Souza.
Just to interrupt you here. Usually when someone interrupts it like just to something good, I'm like, just to interrupt you here. This does sound like a good idea.
Yeah.
Like I kind of want to just go start up some student
It's like
newspapers. I
spy
don't know.
fiction. It's cool.
I think
kinda.
they might be able to monetize this at some point. We should start student newspapers. How much does it even cost? Also, they're good at getting like a bang for their buck, you know, with like local, like they realize you need like Soros, you fund like the local guys, you just get more. Like what does it cost? Like $2,500 to, you know, turn some neighborhood into a shit show? How much is a student newspaper? It's like $375.
That could be our next big endeavor. That is pretty
Yeah,
cool.
so look, these guys, so the guys that got their start up the commentary, public figure, speaker ladder with the student newspaper track, like at what point are they compromised in the sense that they're subsuming their values and their...
Okay, this is, fuck, I didn't know this was gonna be the fucking conspiracy hour. This is fucking boring. I thought this was supposed to be more entertaining. Fuck you guys.